Welcome to Stack of Stats. I am your host, Pamela Maldonado, bringing you all of the analytics behind the bets. Today, I am joined by DFS analyst for TourJunkies.com, Anthony Charter. My boy, he comes with me every week to help me figure out the PGA action, and that is what we are going to do again today. But first, can you recap how did Charles Schwab go for you last week?
Pretty good. All of our head-to-heads. I think we both had 3 head-to-heads. They all worked, so we talked about those. Those were good. I actually parlayed all 3 together too for some extra bonus.
Nice.
and hit that, so that was nice too. I don't think my bankroll challenge bets did all that good. I think I got Hoffman T20, just missed out on Connors, and I think I had one other bet cash, but all my other bets work amazing, which just happens every time. So
I did really well last week.
Spieth top 10.
Spieth top 10. He did really well. I had him to potentially. He was one. What did I put as the title? That it was Spieth week, and it pretty much was. Even though he took second, it was still a great finish, more than I could ask for. But I did actually go to the event. I was there. I saw. I got to watch Tony Finau. I got to watch Colin Morikawa. All of the players that I have grown to love over the last year of betting the PGA, I got to watch in person, and I've actually seen Jordan Spieth before because of Waste Management. But I mean, there was other players there that it was just so much fun. But some of the things that I learned from watching these players in person was I thought, so some of the players are a lot shorter in person than I thought they, just by looking at their PGA profile photo. Brian Harman, he was so, oh man, it was adorable. It was so great to see some of these players though. But one thing I learned was that those shorties, they can still, I mean, for me, being the recreational, I believe they can still definitely bomb it off the tee just as well as the tall guys. And so that was a really great to watch. Every single, oh man, it was just awesome to hear the ping of the driver and watching the ball just skyrocket for miles. And it was just really fun. But the players, and another thing that I noticed was around the tee, every shot really, they really do take a long time analyzing shot by shot around the green before their putts. They're going up with the driver, going up with the iron shots. So I think the PGA does a really good job of cutting those frames out to kind of just bring you all right, they're up to hit. They've already done their analyzing, and now here's a shot. More often than not, but they really do take their time. And then another thing that I observed was that they really do have moments where they are just like us. And I saw a couple chunks out there, some shanks, and they're trying to chip up to the green and it goes 10 yards. And you can't help but laugh because as a fan, you love to see it. You make those mistakes on the weekends, and it's kind of nice when a PGA professional kind of makes the same mistakes as you do. But it was a lot of fun. I'm happy that I went. It was great. I got to go on Saturday. The weather was the perfect on Saturday, and a little bit of rain all around it, but it was a great overall experience. I'm happy that I went.
Yeah, I have yet to go to a PGA event. I should be going next week to the Canadian Open, but that's not happening because of COVID. So it's going to be some brand new tournament. But it's the same thing for golf coverage. On Thursday and Friday, they just pretty much avoid the cut. So we get to see a lot of shots generally, but they have no idea how the cut works. And it's just shot and shot, which is cool. But on Saturday and Sunday, instead of showing someone who is hitting a shot that has potential to for a top 10 or top 20 or life-changing opportunity, we have to watch Kokrak and Spieth line up a bunker shot or a putt for 30 seconds. They could literally show 2 shots during that time, important shots from or on Saturday and Sunday, guys who are battling for a top 10 or battling a top 20, sometimes those top 10s mean that person gets to play next week. Literally their job is on the line. Obviously 10th place pays a shitload of money, but they literally get a spot for next week. So every Saturday and Sunday, it's the same stuff on Twitter. Just why are they showing this? Blah, blah, blah. So Anyway,
well, it was a great experience. It was a great experience, and I'm happy that I got to see for myself exactly. I mean, I play golf, so I get to see the greens and whatnot, but now I'm actually showing up to watch this in the bettor's perspective. Like, oh, this is the rough that Charger was talking about. These are the types of fairways, and these are the types of greens, and this is the hills and the whatnots and the runoffs and it was very interesting to see it from that perspective. But we do move over to this week. We are playing at the Memorial. Looking at the field, we have Jon Rahm, who is a plus 1,200 favorite. He did win this event last year. You then have in the top 5, Jordan Spieth, who took second at Charles Schwab. He did shoot a 75 on day 4, which is what pushed Kokrak to jump ahead of him for the win, followed by Bryson DeChambeau, Colin Morikawa, and then Rory McIlroy. This is the first time not seeing Justin Thomas in the top 5 of the betting odds, and he is at plus 2,000 to win this tournament. You also do have former Memorial winners in the field, including Patrick Cantlay, Duffner, McGirt, of course, Jon Rahm that I just mentioned, and then DeChambeau. Is there any other player that I should be listing off for part of the field?
No, I mean, like in a 120 player field, especially in an invitational like Jack's Place, the field is generally pretty stacked. Like everyone wants to be here. Jack Nicklaus makes like the truest test of golf. And we'll talk about it soon, but the renovations that he made to this course literally while the play was going on last year, which was kind of insane.
So that does move over to the course. It is the Muirfield Village Golf Club. It is a par 72. It is over 7,500 yards. And just as you alluded to, it is the house that Jack built. It has hosted the Workday Charity Open, which is won by Colin Morikawa, and the Memorial last year, every year, and it was won by Jon Rahm.
45 years. This will be
45 years, and they had this event. They had this course host back-to-back events in 2020. You were alluding to some of the renovations. One of the changes that they made from last year to this year was the greens. They did resurface it with bent grass, so it is no longer a bent POA mix. But can you tell me about some of the other changes that we are expected to see for this weekend?
Yeah, well, they also put irrigation and pressure air systems in every single green too, so they'll be able to dry. Like, I know they're getting a bunch of rain right now, and there's a bunch of rain on Thursday and some on Friday, so they'll be able to, get those vacuums going and basically drain water. The green complexes were recontoured. One of the crazy things about Muirfield was like if you missed the green even slightly, it would just roll off. Every side roll off. The fairways do the same thing. They just, you miss the fairway by a yard or even hit the fairway on the edge by a yard, it just rolls right off into the rough. They resurfaced all the tee boxes. They moved a whole bunch of the tee boxes. They basically added about 100 yards overall to the course. A lot of the fairway and greenside bunkers were rebuilt.
And rearranged.
It actually, if you go on PGA Tour's Twitter page, they have a video of Jack explaining every change with kind of a virtual demonstration of all the changes on the entire course, which is really, really cool to see because you can see exactly where things were moved and his thoughts on the whole thing, which is, anytime you can listen to Jack Nicklaus talk, it's like you open your ears if you're interested in golf for sure.
Nearly every green was reshaped except holes 12 to 14 and 17. And as Charter already mentioned, it is about 100 yards longer. And then the fairway and the greenside bunkers have been rebuilt and rearranged. But what does all of that mean? It means that it is tougher to hit the fairways. It means that there is more water and there are more bunkers now in play than before. So what is that trying to allude to? It is trying to keep the bombers from bombing. This is now becoming more of a precision golf rather than let me just bomb it 100 yards over the bunker and it's no longer in play. Well, now they're in play. So we are looking to players who are going to be great with the iron shots. We talk about this every week. We are looking for the players who are great with their iron shots. These greens, they are small. So it's going to be tough to hit these greens. So if you are not hitting the greens, I need you to be good with your chip shots. I need you to be good around the green. What stats were you using for this week's tournament at the Memorial?
Yeah, like statistically, strokes gain approach is number one by far. Pretty much every Jack Nicklaus course, and every time he speaks, it's second shot golf. Like he doesn't care what you do off the tee. He does. If you can carry like 320, like Bryson obviously won here, not when he was like driving 350 yards, but like there are some options out there if you can clear those big 320 numbers or whatever. Otherwise, there's a bunker in place for every shot you miss on those opportunities. But yeah, stroke gain approach, huge. Around the green, huge. Putting on bent, bogey avoidance. Scrambling is probably, like, scrambling at this course is definitely below average, but like scramble by definition is like a 50-foot putt or like a fringe shot. That's not really going to come into play too much because the greens are so small. I mean, if you're missing it that bad, it's probably just going to come down to putting anyway. But scrambling probably look at, and then obviously strokes gain par five. They're not easy par fives, but you have to take advantage when there's four of them, like especially when the score is generally between like -9 and obviously Cantlay got to like -19, but that's only happened twice. Him and Rose did it. But you usually there's only 5 to 6 people that are getting to double digits, so you have to avoid bogeys and you have to birdie the par fives.
So then that does bring us over to the players that you're going to be playing. There's only a few players on your list today, and you usually have like 100, and today you only have a handful. And you and I are in agreement. It worked out for us last week that we were in agreement on some of these players. Let's see if it works out again this week. Some of the players that you're looking to target are Corey Connors. It is a given at this point that he's going to end up on either one of our cards at any point in the season. Every single week, it's Will Zalatoris show. It is the Corey Connors show. We are going to keep betting these players until the wheels fall off. Before his top 20 odds, he is plus 100. He did course history. He took 22nd and 65th here before. He is in deep green when it comes to ball striking. He continues to be the best ball striker on tour. His around the green stats, they are improving to where he's not losing strokes, but he is staying relatively neutral. What cost him at Charles Schwab last week was his putting. He lost 2 strokes putting on bent grass greens. That was one of the stats that you were using. On bent grass greens, he does have 8th place at the Zozo Championship. He took 10th at the Masters in November. He took 8th at the Masters this year, and then he took 20th at Charles Schwab, having lost multiple strokes putting in each of those events. What else, other than ball striking, do you like about him for this week?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to say. It's going to come down. Obviously, his putting is gotten up. He definitely need to get up and down a little bit better. But I mean, he's literally cashed 8 of 12 top 20s in the last 6 months, or basically in 2021. He's played 12 events and he's finished in the top 28 times. So, like, statistically, it's just an automatic bet anyway. Like, even if you didn't really like Corey Connors, you just got to go with the numbers, right? Like, he's literally only not cashed a top 20 bet 4 times. So
and as long as you're getting plus money on those top 20s, you keep firing until he shows that he can no longer do it. Another player that you like for this week is a player that I was on last week. He was my long shot to win the tournament. It was Charlie Hoffman. He finished 3rd last week at the Charles Schwab tournament. This week he is for top 20. He's plus 150 odds. Does not have good course history. He missed the cut twice in back-to-back years, and then he took 45th the year before. But he's having himself one heck of a season. Since the Valero Texas Open in April, he took 2nd at the Valero, 18th at RBC. He took 11th at the Zurich, 18th at Valspar, 17th at the PGA Championship, and then 3rd at last week's Charles Schwab. He's also a player who is doing really great with his ball striking. He's lost some in 3 straight tournaments around the green, and his putting is a little bit off and on. His bent grass, he doesn't have really good bent grass numbers. On bent grass courses, he is 3rd at Charles Schwab, which is just last week. He took 13th at the Northern Trust, which was in August of last year. But aside from that, he has 3 missed cuts on bent grass greens. So what about him for this week has you eyeing him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to pop in the models because he's been striking the ball so well. Like
deep
2nd
green
opportunities gained, 6th in good drives gained, 3rd in greens and regulation, 8th in par 5 scoring, and 7th in bogey avoidance. But like, he has 9 top 20s in 2021 and 5 in a row. Like, so it's the same thing.
Knowing that bent grass isn't his best surface, though, how do you still feel okay about that?
Bent grass was last week. Didn't
That's
do
true.
him any. Didn't
That
do any
is
harm.
absolutely true. Boom. That is the answer, which moves us over to Justin Thomas. That is your third player on your list that you like for this week. His odds, they aren't great. For a top 20, he is a big, heavy favorite at minus 200. For a top 10, you get a little bit of plus value at plus 125. At this course, he took 18th. He missed the cut. He took 8th, 4th, and then missed the cut. He has been kind of on a bit of a downswing, I would say, since he won the Players' Championship in March. He took 42nd, 21st, 13th, 26th, missed the cut, and last week at Charles Schwab, he finished in 40th. He's lost in 2 straight events. He's neutral with his iron shots. What makes you think he can bounce back this week or have a good week this week?
Because he's the second best player in the world.
I mean, he's not like playing like the second best player.
His final round was seriously good though. Like I think he shot or tied for one of the best rounds on Sunday. I'm just pulling up the numbers here. He even still lost a stroke putting, but he gained strokes on the par fours. Greens.
You're talking about round 4.
2 strokes. Yeah, just the final round on Sunday. So I really like seeing the bounce back. But yeah, it's Justin Thomas, and I'm getting 2.62 to 1 for a top 10. He's obviously played decent around here. He still has top 10s in ball striking and par 5 scoring, bogey avoidance, scrambling, and around the green game and putting is still above average. Even on his kind of bad run, but bend is still his best surface.
I was just gonna say, on bent and grass greens, he's done really well since June of last year. Some of the places that he has is 10th. He has a 10th at Charles Schwab from last year's, 12th at the ZJ Cup from Shadow Creek, 2nd at the Zozo, 4th at the November Masters, and 21st at this year's Masters, and then of course 40th just last week. He is one of those players that's kind of really off and on, so it's really scary to be taken in for not as much value. But every time you consider that, yes, he is still one of the top 5 players in the world, and you're giving me plus 2,000 and higher for him to win, okay, maybe this is the time that he kind of wakes up.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to get better odds. This is probably as bad as it's going to go. Even if he doesn't perform all that well this week, it's not going to get really any better next week.
Right.
But he has a legit chance to become the number 1 golfer in the world this week. He only needs, I think he probably only needs a top 20 because DJ's not in the field. Obviously, Rahm can't win. Because Rahm, I believe, has almost as good of a chance to become number 1. So if JT, and Rahm duel each other into top 10s and JT finishes better, we're going to have probably a new number 1 and number 2 in the world. But a
little bit of extra motivation.
Yeah, and one awesome thing with the strokes gained home life, I don't know if you saw, but on Sunday morning, or was it Saturday morning? Either way, Justin Thomas cut Mike Vaseki a big check to finance his golf career, which is is so cool and so huge.
Can you talk about who? Can you explain who Mike Vaseki is in that story?
Yeah, so he's a nobody. He Monday qualified, I think 3 weeks ago for his first PGA Tour event ever in a playoff. Had to make a decently long putt, I believe, to make the playoff, and then he called his dad after and just broke down crying. Obviously heartfelt moment. He works his ass off, and then you realize the dream. Now obviously he didn't perform all that well. He had a really bad round 1 and then kind of came back round 2, but still missed the cut. Charles Schwab offered him a sponsor exemption last week, which is super cool of them. He missed the cut again, but Justin Thomas called him up on Wednesday and asked him if he wanted to play a practice round. And, obviously that was probably one of the best moments of his life. And then, they must have clicked pretty decently because.
And he cut him a fat check to say, hey, pursue your dreams.
Yeah. Who knows what the check was worth, but I mean, any amount
any little bit helps. Any little bit of help. Somebody who's trying to be an up and coming player, whether it's in tennis or whether it's in the PGA, it's tough. I've had friends who've made run at making it in the PGA, and it's very expensive, and any little bit is going to make a little bit of a difference. But that
Monday qualifiers are $450 just to play. you got to get there, you got to stay, blah blah blah. Like it's
and there's a lot.
So.
But there are two players that you and I do agree with, and it is Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth. I'm looking to Tony Finau. I don't know. I kind of feel like if there was a time to win, I don't know. I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
You're starting to make me look bad.
I feel like Tony Finau is going to be a potential to win this week. I am going to take him as a top 20 because his odds are minus 125, but I definitely believe that a win is in there, but I'm conservative. Here at this course, he does have an 8th place and 11th place, a 13th, and a cut. He is coming off his worst putting performance. He lost 4.4 strokes last week, but that is his worst that he has had since March of 2020. So that is very unlikely to happen. Here, as of recently, he took 8th at the PGA Championship. He took 20th at the Charles Schwab last week. Before that, he did miss a cut at Wells Fargo, but before that, he has a 10th place finish and a 17th place finish. Looking at bent grass greens, he took 4th at the PGA last year, 5th at BMW Championship, 11th at the Zozo, 10th at the Masters, and then 20th at Charles Schwab. So let me tell you also why I like him. I'm going to tell you about my experience from last week. I was over at Charles Schwab. I got to watch them. I watched Tony Finau finish out the course. And what did he do? He went straight to the putting green. I was like, hey, there's Tony Finau putting. Why do I know this? Because I was like, I'm going to go try to take a picture. It didn't work out, but I did notice that he was putting. A couple of hours later, I had some hot dogs. I had some wine. I enjoyed myself. And I was like, I'm ready to go home. He was still at the putting green. He must have putted for, it must have been like 2-3 hours solid. And he knows that it was his worst round of putting that he has had. That is, he could have done better. He had his ball striking was there. His around the green was there. His putting obviously is what hurt him. This is the week that he can bounce back. What stats do you have that say that this is a good week for him?
I mean, the Tony Finau stats, like nothing like really jumps off the page other than he's 8th in the field in 2021 and around the green and 9th in the field in bogey avoidance, which are great. Everything else is like kind of middle of the road. He's 16th in ball striking so far, 28th in par 5 scoring, but like he literally has 10 top 20s or better this season. So like it's just another one of those things where like when he's in the field, it's so good. At the start of like after the Tour Championship last year, I was like Tony Finau is going to win twice in 2021. He's come so close. So
always
many
a bridesmaid,
times.
Never a groom. Now he's not even a bridesmaid. Recently, he's kind of been like, "Oh, okay, you're part of your wedding party, but you're not
top 10 Tony." Like that's his new nickname has become top 10 Tony, and I mean that's fine because like you can make a seriously awesome career in the PGA being a top 10, machine. But like he's too good really to not have won a PGA Tour event. Puerto Rico, whatever.
I still believe in 2021 it's going to happen, but as somebody who already does have a win under his belt, and I believe that a second win is on the way, is another player that you agree with, Jordan Spieth. I agree with Jordan Spieth. I mean, his top 20 odds are minus 200. I'm going to put him in the top 10 at plus 125 because I feel that good about him. I do like his head-to-head matchup. He is a minus 110 over Colin Morikawa. I don't mind that. And let me tell you why. Because I know it's a little tricky. But he is in the green in absolutely every category. Off the tee, approach, overall ball striking, around the green, putting, strokes gained total. He has the complete package. He just had one bad round on the 4th round. That is what kept him from getting a title. But my one worry was that he is on his 7th straight event. But here at this course, he does have 2 13th place finishes. He took 7th, and then in 2018, he did miss the cut. Looking at bent grass greens, though, he's been on a bit of a roll. He took 3rd at the Masters. He took 9th at Byron Nelson, and then 2nd last week at Charles Schwab. Do we need to touch up on any more of why we like Jordan Spieth this week?
No, I mean, bent has always been his best putting surface. He always shines on bent. I mean, I guess even before, like, putting was always Jordan Spieth's bread and butter anyway. His approach game was always solid. Off the tee has kind of always been an issue. But, like, generally he's so good hitting in the rough, it's not that big. Like, his worst stat this week is his fairways. But, like, the rough could create a problem. But, like, this course maybe...
Rough could create a problem for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he finds the driver just a little bit, and like he doesn't even need to because he gains so many strokes around the green, on the greens, he's third in bogey avoidance.
Short game. I'm looking for players who are great around the green. That is Jordan Spieth. And now he's doing better with his iron shots. Oh, I love you. I love you every week, and I want to bet you, and I'm going to keep firing until it don't work out. Another player that I do like. Your head is
my head-to-head with is against McIlroy, so I'm taking that big time.
I definitely don't dislike him against Colin Morikawa. He didn't do so well last week. I'm going to roll with the guy who is on an upward trend versus the guy who's kind of just like hop it along, and that's going to be Jordan Spieth. But in the player that I like, those are the two players that we agree with. Just to recap, the players that you are interested in are going to be Corey Connors, Charlie Hoffman, Justin Thomas, and then we both agree on Tony Finau, Jordan Spieth. Players that I like for my card this week. Help me out with these and tell me if you like them. One player is going to be Hideki Matsuyama. You helped me keep off of Joaquin Niemann last week, and that paid dividends because he ended up, I think, around 40th or 50th place. Perfect. Let's see if we can end up either cashing another player and or fading another player and it work out. Hideki Matsuyama is somebody that I like for this week. Top 20, he has plus 100. I do like his head-to-head against Patrick Cantlay. In 2020, though, he did miss a cut, but he took 6th and 13th in the year before. This year, his ball striking is so good. His around the green is so good. He did miss. He lost 3.3 strokes putting at the PGA Championship, but that was like 2 tournaments after he won the Masters. So, hey, he's going to probably have an off day. Around bent grass greens, he did win the Masters, as we saw in April of this year, and then he took 13th in the November Masters. But outside of that, he doesn't really have too much. He took 21st at the CJ Cup, 28th at the Zozo. Am I crazy for considering him this week? If I just looking at statistics, if I'm sticking to statistics, he is. Where is Decky? He has 5th on strokes gained on the approach, and he is 5th in around the green. That is what I want. A guy who's good with his irons and good around the green. How do I not keep him off when he is the best player on my list for these 2 categories?
A big worry I have with Hideki is his putting. Like, he's 104th in the field in putting. He's 91st in scrambling. Right. Both of those going to be super. I mean, like, his par 4s 450 to 500, which they're going to see a lot of this week, aren't very good either. But like, he generally just pars those anyway. Like, and that's what you want. Like, you don't need someone that's going to go and shoot a whole bunch of birdies this week. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if the Masters hangover is done yet or not. Like, he obviously hasn't really shown much since he came back. Right. I mean, he literally said he didn't pick up a club for like 3 weeks after. Like, he had dinner with the Prime Minister of Japan and,
and then for not practicing, then he took 23rd at the PGA Championship. So maybe he's been practicing. Maybe the groove is starting to come back. I'm going to trust it. It kind of doesn't make sense, but I'm going to trust it because, like I said, I have to stick to a guy. If I'm using strokes gained on the approach and around the green, and he is top 5 in both, I have to add him. Another player that I am looking at, his odds, not great. And why? Because he won this event last year. It is Jon Rahm. For top 20, he is minus 285. I'm not paying that price. For top 10, he's minus 125. Still not great value, but what can I do here? I think that he is he's doing great things. He had baby fever. He saw the birth of his first child. That's done and over with. He's done well since. He missed the cut at the Wells Fargo, but that was right after the birth. He did 34th at Byron. That's a team event. And then he took 8th at the PGA Championship. He is exactly the type of player that I want. Good off the tee, good approach, good ball striking, decent around the green, decent putting. Combine it all, and potentially you can get some magic on bent grass greens. He took 2nd at the Zozo. He took 7th at the Masters in November, 5th at the Masters earlier this year in April, and then he's coming off 34th at Byron Nelson. And we haven't seen him since the PGA Championship, but what do you think about him for top 10?
There's obviously tons of potential there. I mean, he's the 3rd best golfer in the world right now. Could be number 1. And he did
say that he's in contention to be the world number 1. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if he wins, he definitely becomes number 1. I don't know the exact details because I think he's like 30 points back. So he needs.
Say no more. World number 1 is in contention. I know what that means to players because Novak Djokovic spent his career holding on to the world number 1 title because it meant that much. If it meant that much to somebody in tennis, another single game single player game, it's going to mean that much to a player here at the PGA. Another player that I do like, but I'm not going to touch, and I do want to leave it up. I do want to talk about it because I don't like the price. Viktor Hovland, but I hate all of his pricing. For a top 20, he's minus 185. For a top 10, he's plus 125. The odds just aren't good for me. I do like him to do well. If you have him in a matchup, I would consider that. I don't like him against Colin Morikawa. I think they're kind of too similar to each other. But if I could take him in a top 20, I honestly would. But minus 185, that's too high for me. So I'm not going to be taking him, but I did want to mention him as somebody that I was trying to consider because he has 4 straight events where he has been neutral or gained around the green, which is supposed to be the worst part of his game. It has been the best stretch of his golf career, and I like him to continue to do good things. Last week at the PGA, last time we saw him was at the PGA Championship. He took 30th, but he's going in the right direction. I just don't like the odds for him. So instead, I'm going to move over. Nope, actually, I'm going to keep it at that. I'm not even going to. I had Cam Smith. I'm going to talk about it. Fine. I had Cam Smith. Top 20 for plus 150. It makes absolutely no sense to me. He's kind of really all over the place, and somehow he ends up knocking out top 20s. He took 4th at the Genesis, 11th at the WGC Workday, 17th at the Players, 10th at the Masters, 9th at RBC. He won the Zurich, which it's a pair. Who cares? And then last time we saw him was 59th at the PGA Championship. On bent grass greens, he took 7th at the CJ Cup. He took 4th at the Zozo, 2nd in November Masters, 10th in April Masters. Top 20, plus 150. He's kind of been off. He's not a player that you know for his irons, but he is good around the green and he is good at putting. If he can stick to that, can he sneak in a top 20 again, do you think? It's a 50-50, but this is like the most value player that I could find for myself, a top 20 at plus 150, because everybody else is a minus or like a barely plus 100. So I feel like I just have to trust it. For whatever reason, he popped up and he's doing well.
Smith's stats are just like his hairdo. He just doesn't care what they say. Like,
yeah,
like he's rallied off 6 seriously good results in a row, and his stats, other than scrambling and around the green, are just very poor. Like 96 in good drives, 82nd in greens and regulation, 89th in fairways, 74th in par 4s. The par 5 scoring actually isn't bad. He's top 25 in par 5 scoring, 45th in bogey avoidance. But like it sometimes, and a lot of the times with golf, stats just don't matter, because like you can go out and shoot the round of your life one day and then shoot 20 over par. I mean, I'm referring to myself basically, but that's just how golf works, right? Like,
what do you think about his head-to-head? He is a small favorite to Shane Lowry.
I don't mind that. My model doesn't really like that.
Well, then I'm a
Shane Lowry. It likes Shane Lowry just a little bit better, but like same thing.
I think they can both do well. I think I would like him as an underdog to maybe get a tie. I can see them both doing 18th,
These
19th.
2 guys were extensively talked about on the Tour Junkies podcast on Monday. One was not liked and the other was liked quite a bit.
I'm assuming that it was Shane who was liked and Cam Smith who was not.
Yeah. But well, then it's funny. Go ahead.
Potentially, I'm going to leave him off then. Last week, you helped me stay off Joaquin Niemann. I'm going to stay off Cam Smith. So then that leaves me with the players that I'm going to target for this week are going to be Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth, the 2 players that I share with Charter, and then Hideki Matsuyama, Jon Rahm for a top 10. And I would like to play Viktor Hovland. I just can't find a way to play him in head-to-head or in top 20s, and I don't like his top 10 value. I need him to have more results for top 10s for me to feel promising about that. And then Cam Smith, I'm going to leave him off. So those are the players that we're going to target.
If you're looking for some deep top 20s this week, Kevin Streelman and Matt Wallace would be my 2 guys I've been looking at the most. Streelman's course history is phenomenal for a top 20 guy at deep odds. And both of those guys are top 20 in my model this week. So I have my eyes set on them for DFS purposes. But if you don't do DFS purposes, betting those 2 on a top 20, or even like if your book has like top 30 or top 40 odds, like you could probably get a juicy number on that And
Streelman is plus 170 and Wallace is plus 200. But why do you like either? Just quickly, why do you like either of those players?
Matt Wallace has just been so sturdy. He's amazing on par fours. His around the green game is stellar. The putting is great. Bogey avoidance is great. Streelman's good drives gained, fairways, the par four scoring, greens regulation opportunities, and then the course history for both. I believe Matt Wallace finished 4th last year, and I believe Kevin Streelman has like 4 top 20s in the last like 5 or 6 years here. So yeah, both of those have caught my eye for potential top 20s for sure.
And then on bet and grass greens, Streelman took 21st at CJ. He took 28th at the Zozo, and he's coming off a 20th place finish at the Charles Schwab. I did see him, and he did pretty well. He looked good. The only thing that he was neutral on was around the green. So if he can just if he can keep it to neutral and do well everywhere else, and he is coming off 8th place at the PGA Championship right before that. I do like Streelman over Wallace, so I would consider that as well. I'm going to look into those two players a little bit deeper once we are done with this. But just to recap, again, just a final recap of the players that we are both targeting for this week. Charter, he's going to be looking to Corey Connors, Charlie Hoffman, Justin Thomas. We do both agree on Tony Finau, Jordan Spieth. And then I also do like Hideki Matsuyama, Jon Rahm for a top 10. And those are going to be the players that we target for this week. Do make sure to follow Anthony at AntCharter on Twitter. And you can follow me at Pamela M35. But that does it for another episode of Stack of Stats.
Good luck.